Hey everybody, I am back. Britt says season 1, episode 2. Big city living, small town money. Trying to survive in a big city is episode 2. So last episode we talked more about relationship and dating, and now I want to talk about, life obstacles and things like that. Like, we don't just deal with dating, we deal with living, we deal with money, we deal with finances, we deal with our mental, we deal with everything. So today we're going to talk about that, and it's going to be good. It's going to be great. So, what can we talk about? For me personally, I am a big city liver with small town money. Like, no exaggeration. Like, that is who I am. Like, that is just how I live. It's hard. Is it hard? I mean, it's not that hard for me. I'm doing it. I'm making it do what it do. Have I had dreams of living in a small town just so that I could potentially have a better life? Of course, I've been through that so many times. So let's talk some facts. Let's talk some facts with millennials, because I'm assuming mostly millennials listen to the podcast, or if not, we are the generation to be. So it states, an article titled "Millennials Are Happier in Cities," written by Richard Florida from www.citylab.com. When it comes to place, millennials are different from the generations that come before them. Unlike older Americans, they tend to be happier in larger, more urban environments. As the charts below show, it was charts on the article, for most of the period since 1970, people have been much happier in smaller, less urban places, but that started to change recently around the year 2010 as the back to the city movement accelerated. Millennials are the only generation that is happier in places with a population of more than 250,000 people. All right, so my theory on this is that millennials love to be mixy. We're into the technology. We're into wanting to be an influencer, starting podcasts, throwing events, and being management. Those type of careers require living in a big city. You meet obviously people who want to be doctors, but when they want to be, for millennials, if you want to be a doctor, you want to be the best, the biggest, the most known. You want to be a New York doctor, a Miami doctor. So I could definitely see how a millennial would be happier in a big city. Then an article written by Claire Trapasso on Realtor.com says, though recently, like in 2018, it says it turns out that millennial homebuyers are increasingly moving to small towns, according to the 2018 Home Buyer and Seller Generational Report from the National Association of Realtors. About a fifth of those aged 37 and under, 21% bought homes in a small town, compared with 16% in the previous year, according to the report. That's compared with 15% who moved to urban areas, which has been the same for the past 2 years. So this article was written in 2018. So, like I said, on the spectrum, it's like millennials, we really don't have money because of the student loan debt ratio and just so many other factors. Like, the cost of everything has gone up since God knows when. Like, everything is just up and out and about. So it's kind of hard. Like, it's like you really gotta like kind of figure out what it is that you yourself want to do, in a sense. So there's pros and cons of living in a big city. I feel like the perks of living in a big city is like it's always something to do out here. Like, I live in New York City. It's always something to do. If I'm bored, if I'm really bored, I could always get up and go somewhere. There's always a corner store. There's always a convenience store. Like, in smaller towns, you gotta drive 15 miles to get to Target. Like, I have like 7 Targets that I could go to conveniently. Things like that, just to pick up anything. I have a variety of malls, a variety of shopping, a variety of food that I can get in a bigger city. Even like I talked to my friend, we was talking about like finding a hairstylist. It's so easy for me. Well, she was looking for somebody to cut her hair, and she was looking for somebody to cut her son's hair. And even on that spectrum, it's so easy to find a stylist. It's too many options to the point you're like, who should I pick? And you really gotta read every nook and cranny of reviews just to find the perfect person when you live in a big city, vice versa when you live in a smaller city. So I definitely see the perks of, you know, living in a big city. Like, those are definitely like one of the perks. One of the cons for me is not a con. That some people, like, I remember when I went to school in Buffalo, I had met this girl and she was like, oh my God, I hate New York. It's so loud. It smells bad. It's just not for me. People are always rushing. So I feel like it could be a con, just the attitudes, and not just with New York City. Like, well, when it comes to attitude, that could be a New York City issue. For other cities, yes, the bigger the city is, it's a lot of movement, a lot of loudness, a lot of this, a lot of that. Like big cities like Chicago, LA, the traffic, DC, those are things you gotta take in constantly. But I feel like you get used to it, but some people don't get used to it. They don't have time for that. Like, they want to be able to go to work, go to sleep at night, and be able to get to work in 15 minutes. You're not gonna always get that in New York City. Like, I always say, it is a luxury to be able to, like, get a job in New York City and it's 30 minutes and under your travel. Like, that is a luxury. That is a luxury in a big city, in a New York City, a Miami, a LA, a DC, Chicago, any big city that you may live in. Small towns, I have friends who live in small towns. They seem happy. I feel like if you grow up somewhere, you're gonna naturally be happy in that environment. Once you grow up living a certain lifestyle, you're most likely gonna be happy in that environment. But then again, there's a lot of people who grow up in smaller cities and then they move to a big city. So I'm not sure, but I mean, I have met people who have lived in a big city and then had to move back home due to finances. I never heard somebody say, I hate it here, I'm moving back to my city. So I'm not really sure about that. That's definitely something you could comment, review, let me know if you ever like lived in a big city and then had to move back to a smaller city. Then rent. Let's talk about rent. Okay, so at one point in my life, I did really consider moving to Ohio, like a smaller town, because at the time I had wanted to go to corporate, and the place where I was working at, their corporate headquarters was in Ohio. So I looked up the rent. Like, they had these dope apartment buildings. The rent was like $800, and you got a whole full apartment. And then, like, in New York City, a 1-bedroom apartment is like $1,800. So $850 and $1,800, that is a complete difference. Car insurance in Ohio, when I looked up the car insurance in Ohio, no exaggeration, it said like it would be like $20. I kid you not, I'm not lying. So just the cost of living is like extremely different in a smaller town. But this is the thing, though. This is the thing. For me, my whole family lives in New York City. So if I was to get up and go to Ohio, those are also things you got to consider. You're going to be on your own. I also did read, too, that they say a lot of people who live in bigger cities are more happier than people who live in smaller cities. I think that everybody is a little bit unhappy. I'm not 155% sure of that, but they said statistically they did like a survey and they found that people who live in bigger cities were more happy. I mean, you could live in like the biggest city in the world, and if you feel lonely, you feel lonely. Like, and that's the worst, when you feel lonely in a place where there's millions of people. I think New York City has 8 million people in it, and you can still feel like crap, like dead serious. So I mean, I don't really know about that. But definitely, like I was saying, with the rent, I have friends who live in Syracuse. Shout outs to them. And I know that they have houses and kids and families and cars. And then, like, here in the city, I have a friend too. She's married. She has a kid. But do we have a house? No, we do not. Like, we have cars. Our car insurance is extremely higher. Our car notes are high. So you kind of see that. You see how other people are living and how you're living. And you're like, dang, I could be living so much better if I was in a different city, a smaller city. But I don't know what I want to do. Like, it's just so confusing. Like, it's so confusing. Like, you really don't know what to do. But for me, I thought about it. And, I think New York City is the place for me. If I was to ever move somewhere, it probably would be like LA. So I definitely am a big city living type girl. And it's something you do battle with. I think it's dope if you decide to move somewhere smaller in your life and then maybe you come back. It's always good to discover things and see what it is that you really do enjoy. And I know some people can't leave their family and friends. You gotta start your whole life over when you leave, and that's a big jump. So IDK, but I definitely do see the living of a smaller town person and a big city person, and how different their life is. I mean, having your own house and car and family, and well, everybody has a family, but y'all know what I mean by that. It's so completely different. Are they happy? I think they're happy. They look happy. Shoot, they always playing around on social media. Living in a big city, am I happy? Yeah. Am I happy because I live in New York City? I'm not sure. I lived here all my life, so I don't know. Am I happier because I live in New York City, because I live in a big city? That's a good question. I would have to move to a small city to really know. I know that when I went to go visit my grandmother down south, like 3 or 4 years ago, it was so quiet. It was so chill. It was just like a getaway from me. I feel like a small city for me is a getaway. Like, when all the lists become too much, I just will get up and go somewhere, a small town, and just lay up, Like, it was just so melodic. Like, when you was driving on the highway, it wasn't so much cars. You didn't hear no honking, no honk, 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 honk. Like, in New York City, they just honk for anything. What are you honking about? Like, honk, honk? Like, for what? What are you doing? Like, you did, like... But then when you go down south, it's just like... Everybody just driving, and you look out the window, you see the trees, and you see the southern, the way people talk to you. There's a little racism in the South still. White people look at you a little different. But as it pertains to like the hospitality, the respect, even like Florida, when I went to Florida, when I went to Miami, I felt like the people there were just so much nicer. That was just my opinion. Anywhere you go is more nice. Even when I go to Jersey, I feel like the people's more nicer than the people here in the city. Let's talk about it. Like, it's just, I don't know what's wrong with the city. I don't know why everybody's so angry. The rent is too high. That's what the problem is. It's just too high. Everybody broke. Everybody living paycheck to paycheck. I saw something, like, they was like, how does somebody who makes $100,000 spend their money? It's like the more money you make, the more money you spend. So it was crazy. Like, it was crazy. Like, he was spending, the person that they interviewed was spending money on, like, Ubers. That's another thing in New York City, too. You definitely, I mean, I drive everywhere I go for the most part, but sometimes I definitely want to take an Uber when I be wanting to get, like, drunk, but then I be like, then I gotta pay for Uber, there and back. The train, oh my gosh. It's just so much that comes with living in a big city, just like transportation, rent, everything. Like, and it does change your life. I think you are they say like people who live in the city are a little more mean because we don't like to talk, but I also do feel like we still are a little more social in a way. Because I feel like when I come into a small city, I want to be like, hey. And then when you're in a big city, you kind of like, hey. Because when you go to a small city, you don't understand why everybody's so quiet. Like, everybody is so like, so you kind of want to be like, hey, you want to be out there. But also, you don't understand why people are saying hi to you for no reason when you go to a small town. So it's just like kind of weird in a way. But yeah, like I don't know. So I feel like they both can be impactful. I think that somebody who lives in a small city should try living in a big city, and somebody who lives in a big city should try living in a small city if you could afford it. Definitely, or just visit. I mean, visiting and living somewhere is two completely different things. Definitely. So I'm not sure. It's a real big pill to swallow, and just I don't know. Like I said, you know, the rent in a big city is so expensive. A lot of people out here is living with their parents, and the other thing too you gotta consider too is like bigger cities have way bigger and better job opportunities. That's something that is so big and prevalent into living in a big city. Like when you live in a smaller city, that job opportunity is not there. Like New York City, oh my God, it's just like an endless amount of jobs. But then the thing too, when you have that, you lived in like New York or DC and you try to go to a smaller town, they like, bring her in now. Like they want you so bad because they like, oh, she went to school over there, she lived in that city, and I don't know. But like I heard like with the smaller towns, it's not that much career opportunity out there. Especially if you want to be like corporate, a lot of corporate headquarters, well, at least for fashion, but they do have like certain corporate headquarters in like the South and stuff like that. Like when it comes to like engineering and like if you into like building, and because you could get a lot of, I don't know, like those like real industrial type careers, you could definitely do in a smaller town. So yeah, I think it's something for everybody to think about. Like, would you not want to do it? I definitely felt like it was a topic that needed to be discussed because I know everybody. I've met so like all of my friends. I have friends who have stayed. Like when I went to Buffalo, I had a friend. She stayed in Buffalo for a while. I had friends who all have considered moving, like leaving the city. Like everybody has tussled with it. Like I'm dead serious. Like now that I think about it, we all have fought that battle of like we want to leave the city. We do. And then with the gentrification, like first of all, let's talk about gentrification for like 2 seconds. If all black people leave New York City, New York City is not gonna be a vibe. Like if this become whitewashed, is what makes New York City is the diversity, the cultural stuff like that. That's what people love about New York City. Like you cannot kick black people out of New York. Like once they kick us out, we gonna all move to the South, and everybody gonna want to move to the South with us because we're a vibe. So and whatever y'all trying to do, it ain't gonna work. Like y'all gonna try to put all white people in New York City, and then New York City's gonna be mad corny, mad trash, non-social, not gonna up hop no more. Shit's gonna be trash. Like you can't take out minorities, and when I say minorities, I mean even Hispanic people. Come on now, like can't take out the Dominicans. Who's gonna do a wash and set? Like who's gonna do it? Who's gonna do it? Like nobody. Like you cannot kick out the Hispanics, the blacks. You can't do it. We make this city. We made it. It is what it is. You like it because we made it. Like fight me. Thought so. Because let's just talk about that. But we all have tussled moving because we can't afford it, and we all just fighting in this job market. We got little Sally from Colorado coming up here taking my job opportunity, trying to be a vibe because that's what millennials all don't want to live here. You got to go back to Colorado with that because I need that job. You feel me? Like, what's up? They parents helping them pay the rent. My parents don't want to help me pay the rent. But you want to come up here and take my job and my housing. I can't be so bothered. So, yeah, I mean, is there hope? I do feel like I touched something a little bit that I didn't really mean to touch, but I really do feel like eventually that will be a wave. Like if we all was to leave like the big cities, because this is happening with mad cities. Like even New Orleans, I heard it's going through like gentrification. Like a lot of cities, they trying to just push minorities away. And I feel like one day we gonna all move to the South. It's gonna be this one state we all move to, and it's gonna be mad vibey, mad mixy, and then that's where everybody gonna want to move, and it's just gonna be like a domino effect. Like wherever we go, they gonna want to go. That's just my opinion. I said it. Fight me. Like I really believe that. Like wherever we go, they want to go. We're a vibe. Like I really think that may happen one day. Like I feel like one day, Black people will move somewhere. I don't know what state it's gonna be, and we're gonna create such a dope environment for ourselves. I don't know how soon it will be, but I think that's definitely what's next for us. Is that we're gonna create this dope environment. We're all gonna move because we can't afford it, and in that place is gonna be what's the new hot thing, and they're gonna try to gentrify it, and we're not gonna allow it. So I don't think you should even think like that. Like we're not gonna tolerate it. We're not gonna allow it. And I think that's something we should definitely look into. Like I was watching Trigger Warning with Killer Mike, and he was talking about how I don't want to say the wrong name. I think his name is Falaise African. He made his own republic in Africa. Like he made an episode. You definitely guys check that out on Netflix. It's called Trigger Warning by Killer Mike, and he talked about how he had made his own republic. This African guy. His name starts with an F. I have to Google it because this is my podcast, and I just gotta make sure I'm doing right. I really do. And he created his own republic, but because he didn't like the government, and yeah. On the show, Killer Mike created his own republic, and he bought land, and it's not easy if Virginia man claims on African land is unlikely to pass. What did he talk? When you want to Google stuff and do better, I know about him. I know him. His name is Felakuti. I think he was into music. Oh yeah, his name is Felakuti. If I'm saying his name wrong, I don't want no Nigerians coming for me trying to fight me. Like I'm trying to do my best duty and spread the word. All you gotta do is correct me. But yeah, he was a real radical. I dated African, and he told me about him and everything too as well. But he didn't tell me he created his own republic. That's dope. That's something he should have told me from the jump. But yeah, I think that's definitely gonna be the wave, and I think that's something we should really consider doing. Is like just getting our own lands, or just all of us just getting up and moving to some city and just making it what we enjoy, what we like. We are the culture, you know. Black people are the culture. We are the way. Whatever we do is, it turns out what people like secretively on their own time, but we are the culture. And I really do believe that that's what's gonna eventually happen. Or something like revolutionary might happen where we like, they gonna come to us like, oh, your rent going up, and then there's gonna be that one person that's like, my rent ain't going up, and then they not gonna pay their rent. They gonna only pay what they could afford, and then everybody gonna start doing that, and then that's what's gonna be like. You feel me? I'm telling you, something radical, revolutionary is gonna happen with rent. And I'm here for it. I hope I'm around to see it. I don't know I'm gonna be around to see it. I think once rent hit like $3,000 for a 1-bedroom, that's when I'm gonna be out on the trenches, like boycotting. Like what's up? Like what's good? Like I think I'm gonna be out here because unless you know, I mean, like I said, minimum wage went up in New York City, so That's the storyline everybody running with. You know how that go. I don't know. I really don't know what it is what's the hope. But I'm definitely a big city girl with some small town change. You feel me? And I just hope things get better for all of us and anybody who's dealing with that issue. And if you plan on moving to a small city, if you plan on moving to a big city, definitely keep me posted. Let me know how it goes. And I'm definitely excited to see what's in store for rent, housing, and just everything, because it's something that definitely needs to improve. And I think millennials have really hit it the hardest. I even read something too where a lot of millennials have home ownership regret. Like they regret buying a house, and something just went wrong when it came to housing and millennials. Like that living, like we worry about, I feel like we spend so much time worrying about dating and finding a man and marriage, but we don't even think so deep into our future. Like, are you gonna live with your parents until you're 50? No, that's obviously not the goal. We forget about these things, and that's one of the reasons why I talked about it on the podcast, because I feel like it was something so important to bring up. Like, these are things we need to think about. These are things we also need to boycott about. Like, we also need to be outside protesting about. It's just housing and rent and just the cost of living for everybody. It should be, it needs to be a better way. So hopefully that gets figured out, and definitely leave me some feedback, some commentary on your opinion, and I will see you on episode 3, and I will have a guest. Yes, the first episode with a guest is gonna be Shelly B. Michelle, her real name. That is actually my cousin that I love so much, and she will be on episode 3. And we're gonna be talking about relationships again. It's talking about revolution. This is a revolutionary way of dating. Can you guess what episode 3 will be about? And she has definitely she's into health and fitness, but she has definitely been in this market as well, and so have I. So yeah, I will see you guys on episode 3. Now I'm Hispanic. The last episode I said dos, now I'm saying tres. I'm all over the place, honey. I'm all over the moon, the sun, the earth. But yes, I'll see you on episode 3. I'm excited about episode 3. And I want you guys to take so much out of this episode and keep listening and stay tuned.